Let me take you into some of the districts. This is a site plan that shows the entirety of the project. What's the most important thing about this is that the development along 3rd Street, this is reversed from the view you just saw. Development along 3rd Street is fairly low scale. It's in context with the with the village scale of the existing city of Burbank, so it's only 2 to 3 stories along here, building up to perhaps 3 and 4 over at this corner, adjacent to the high school. The center of the site, this is a mid to high-rise hotel, depending upon the room count. And then this is an entertainment esplanade, a festival marketplace that occurs at a waterfront. And this is the serious retail at that corner. So, from 3rd and Magnolia, walk right into a 2 or 3 story anchor department store.
Can the council see well enough? Because we can see
Okay.
fine.
I can move to the other side.
No, Chris comes from a tremendous acting family, and when he sees a lot of people to this side, he automatically talks to the place of this crowd. They're voting later over here.
They're voting later over here? I've got a couple of things just at the end, okay? This just shows the scale of the office complex and what we've got going here. There's a series of campus spaces, little courtyards and things, and it leads into the Center Media District. I pull back from that. This is a piece of that California Canyon. Now it's all dotted with bridges and little bungalows and things. Joe will take you into all of this. It's delirious. But you imagine now you're working in your office downtown. You can pick up for lunch and walk into a sycamore-lined California Canyon with water flowing through it. This is an old western town. Why did the Golden Mall get its name? Because gold was discovered here, and there's now a movie set of the gold rush town that was developed after it. These are all ordinary shops on the inside, but you can see Jeffrey's got a movie shooting here right now. I don't know if there's enough trailers there. It must be a channel movie, okay? This is a little piece of the lost cities of the backlot. This is the Fantasy Hotel. Something very wonderful happens in this hotel. This is the waterfront district. So you have an esplanade, you look out across the water. There are a lot of key things that normally occur at beachfronts and waterfronts, but we've converted them, made them wonderful and magical in a Disney way. So there's the whole project, the whole site.
And one thing we didn't mention, which Joe will go into, is that the mythology we've created is that the Walt Disney Studios in Burbank kind of lost its unique reason for back lot as film became faster and lights became lighter. We now don't have a back lot anymore. This was, as the mythology goes, the original back lot. We've now renovated. We are going to use it as a movie set. So if you have a New York street or this street or that street, not only will be a street for retail shopping, but when we have a movie that's shooting, or MGM does, or anybody does, they will use the New York street or this street or that street. So the whole mythology of the entire project is backlot. And you know, Disney works in story. And in creating the story, that is the story that we wanted to create. So the local residents will know that they may not be able to go on one street this certain day because you're shooting on that street. Now, that won't happen that often, but when it does, it's very exciting. Anyway, sorry.
You got anything left, Joe? I'd like to introduce a colleague, Joe Rohde. He doesn't understand any of this, but I don't understand any of what he'll tell you about.
I presume I'll have to use this microphone as well. First thing I want to do is take this down here, because much of what I'm going to be showing you is detailed shots of what goes on inside here. I want to be able to relate it back to the full-size structure so that you can understand what's going on here. As Michael told you, this is a kind of a back lot. The imaginative structure, the story that we've tried to make up, is that there's a back lot here, and we've moved stores into it so that as you walk up to a building that appears to be a French chateau, you walk under the door of the French chateau, there's a space there that's sort of nothing, and there you're in a store. And that store could sell anything. It will, in fact, sell what it needs to sell to serve the community and to make commerce grow. It's very important in the way that we relate to this. You'll find as we get further and further into this that we get into, I suppose you have to admit, crazier and crazier ideas. Until finally we're at ideas that a person might say, I'm doubtful if I want that in my community. I have doubts about that. I want to assure you that at every point where this project contacts the community, it presents a face to the community that is very, very friendly, very favorable, that welcomes in the pedestrian traffic and tries very hard not to interfere with the normal practice of life in the community. What we really want is for this to become a part of the community. As you go sort of deeper and deeper into it, ultimately to get to the part that is removed, I mean, it's a cliff on one side and pathways and all that on the other, you have to intend to get there. That's where the crazy stuff is, and that's where it stays. And if you don't want to go there, you don't have to go there. But if you do, there's some wonderful, wonderful things waiting for you up there. Now, this retail area, which basically comprises this giant L here, this is where a great deal of the retail is centered. It's internationally themed, as Chris said, but that international theming is carried through in backlot sets. For example, here we have a New York street. This New York street is going to not only be expressed in architecture, but also there's lively people in this street. Not only are there shoppers there going about their daily business, walking through the doors of a New York street facade into, you know, who knows what, Robinson's, Harrods, I don't know what it's going to be, something very exciting. There are also characters carrying out roles in this street to bring it to life as if some sort of drama was going on. Inside, it's filled with shopping opportunities, and those shopping opportunities we're really hoping are going to be a wonderful place to walk around, a fun place to be, so much fun that we might go broke. You might come in here and sit on the floor and just watch people shop, and that's fun enough for you. I want to stress, a lot of times when people hear the word entertainment, they have in their mind girls with long legs doing kick steps and things like that. Entertainment fundamentally means that you enjoy what is happening. In this case, what is happening is shopping. But this shopping is enjoyable. Therefore, this shopping is entertainment. That philosophy informs much of what we're trying to do here. There's the high-powered, hard-hitting kind of entertainment that many people are used to in a theme park is greatly reduced here. What we're trying to do is create an environment where being there is entertainment, and you don't really need to go very much out of your way to create that. Now, this area that you're looking at here is basically this Galleria kind of space in here. It's going to have probably a European theme rather than an American theme, but that's not the only theme we're working with here. As well, I want to mention that the streets have clubs and dining and other things that we'll get to later. There's really not much more I need to say about this. There's a lot of specialty retail, a lot of finely developed interior sets. Another one of the city streets that we want to touch on is something exotic, something that going shopping on this street might be a little bit of an adventure. In this case, we've taken the Ginza from Tokyo and used it as a jumping-off theme point. What this is a set of the Ginza built up against shopping buildings. And those shopping buildings don't have to be Japanese, but it sure would be neat if they were Japanese, because nobody else has one. So it's conceivable that you could go shopping at Mitsukoshi, but they'll probably hate us for even mentioning it. Because we don't, you know, we can't promise that right now. But the quality of being here would be an exciting, light-filled, vibrant atmosphere. Again, as night went on, we would try and develop opportunities to keep the street alive with exterior street vendors, possibly with food opportunities there, and as well as this sort of animated life. I don't mean animated creatures drawn on paper, but people full of life wandering in the streets and keeping this place alive and very active, so that it really does come to have the quality of the real Ginza in Tokyo, a place that very few people have the opportunity to visit. Up on the roof of that, isolated from the public flow down there, is what we call Club Heaven. Club Heaven is basically, we're trying to keep, you know, that sort of atmosphere in an area that is kind of a destination. So again, the club people who want to go to a club aren't necessarily bumping into the people who want to go strolling. This keeps everyone satisfying their directives without interfering with each other. The same way the person who wants to buy a pair of wingtip shoes doesn't want to wade through a sea of mimes and violinists to do that. You want to just go get your shoes and go. You can do that. You don't need to confront the Sphinx. There's not really a Sphinx here. There could be. Okay, one of the clubs we're thinking of is a kind of calypso club, a warm, Caribbean, romantic kind of feeling with a lot of that kind of music, possibly spanning all the way from reggae music to calypso music, but definitely focusing on a romantic, tropical kind of thing, a place where you can relax and sip very sweet drinks. On the other hand, we've got an idea that we're working on for a club where the main entertainment is provided by the guests operating one of our robots. There's a new system we're working on where you can sit in a chair, and by working levers and things, you can make one of these robots come to life. And we think that it would be entertaining both for the person operating the robot and for the robot, and for the people watching this, for this to go on. The whole idea of backlots brings up to mind this sort of lost cities. One of the reasons people used to build backlots was to capture the essence of places that had vanished from the face of the earth. There's not much point building a backlot of somebody's home in Fresno, because you can go to Fresno and shoot a picture of that. But Pompeii, Angkor Wat, wonderful places like that are worth building, and that's why backlots were built. We are going to use another retail avenue, smaller retail, not the big stores, but small personalized retail, as the bones upon which to stick such streets as ancient Italy, Pompeii, perhaps something as exotic and exciting as Angkor Wat, as well as ancient Egypt. And this gets to be kind of fun. It kind of makes an adventure out of shopping again, because you get to tell your friends things like, I just found a wonderful place to get these great wind chimes. You go to the obelisk, you turn left, and there, right between the paws of the Sphinx, is this great little shop. And you go in there and you buy these things. And then afterwards, you can go get lunch underneath the statue of Ptolemy and you know, sit on the ruins of Buddha and have lunch. This is a fun thing to do, I promise. And it's not really going to interfere with the fact that you really did come there to buy Argyle socks, and that's what you want, because it's right there under the sign that says, you know, Senatus Populusque Romanorum. That says Senate of the People of Rome in Latin. They made me take that in school. It's the only thing I remember. No one cares about that. Okay, now, this whole notion of sets and places that come from different times brings one to the sort of imaginative issue of time travel. Once again, in working with this movie theme, we wanted to find some way of capturing this essence of time coming together. What we did is took the notion of the old prop storage house. And the props, which have been used in these great movies, have such a magnetic power that the props are pulling the figures that have once used them back to this place. So this place becomes animated with the personalities of the performers, with the personalities of the people from other times and histories that once interacted with them. So this closet full of great stuff is also filled with great people from the movie past that we all share. Cleopatra, Mark Antony, Ben Franklin. These people are kind of pulled back into this space by the mythic power of the props that are hung on the wall. And that's the airport. Another time travel-y kind of thing that we want to work with is the idea of a place where you can go and you can have a meal in a story from another time. You become absorbed into an actual cinematic kind of event that takes place around you and involves you, and at the same time you're eating authentic food, you're watching authentic people in an authentic kind of time machine place that changes with the seasons so that you can go back, say, 4 times a year and have a completely different experience. I want to also stress that if we do use this as a backlot, which we intend to do, eventually these things do change, so that what once was a New York street, you may come back and it is a Chicago street. What once was Angkor Wat, you may come back and it's Machu Picchu. Another thing that people really expect from this backlot fantasy is the Old West. Indeed, much of the old backlots were Western streets. In this case, we've taken the opportunity to clad one of the first shopping areas you get to right here as the Western street. And again, this would be done in the style of a backlot, so you might have half walls here and there. At night, this really comes alive as a performance space that terminates the Golden Mall and begins the statement about the lively theatrical environment that you're about to enter. Inside, some of the shops would be more heavily themed with this Western theme, and some of them, of course, would be normal shops. In this particular area, there's one entertainment venue. It's kind of a country western and comedy club that entertains the thought that once upon a time, when the trains came to the gold mine and took the gold and went away to the cities of the West and distributed it, there was a big roundhouse. Now, for those of you who don't know, a roundhouse is a great big turntable that turns trains around. Well, the last train that pulled in here stayed. We took it apart. We turned it into a cappuccino maker, a back bar, a potato roaster, a peanut cooker, and the light is the light that lights the stage. And on that stage, you have country western acts. It's a kind of family place where you can eat peanuts and listen to great music. And once in a while, we have comedians. Up there is the man with the small head and his dancing ostrich. I don't know what really would be there, but there would be something funny there that you would laugh at. Hosting this entire area is the woman who made her fortune off this gold mine, Miss Mona, and as you can see, she leads a precarious existence in her mine saloon, where the bar and everything is made of all the high explosives that they use to mine out this area and get the gold out. This notion of personalities hosting different areas is one of the things that's crucial to our idea. Keep in mind now, virtually everything you've seen so far is a retail environment. What adds life to it, what adds vitality to it, is the created personalities that host it. When you go to a great old city, when you go to even back east where the cities are considerably older than they are here, there's people who live there and the people work there every day. They bring a life and a vitality to the environment that somebody who's just hired to be there doesn't. We're trying to create that mood of previously existing life to bring to this, so that there's a sense that this community is very much alive, and that as the real community moves into it and begins to inhabit it, indeed it does become alive. It becomes a living center to the community of Burbank that has a personality unlike any other in the United States, indeed in the world. Now, so far, much of what you've seen is at a very high level of intensity. Running right through the middle of this thing is the California Canyon. The canyon, as Christopher said, is a very calm place. There's really not a lot that goes on in there. Water trickles down through the waterfall. I want to put trout in there, not to fish, just to watch them go by. People like to look at fish. Poppies grow when it's poppy season, sycamore trees, lots of shade, and then the architecture of the balconies and the office spaces that come out, the few small restaurants and the few small shops that line this are all done in a California bungalow style. Welcoming, woodsy kind of soft-edged things that are nice to walk by, that don't really disturb your conscience. They don't call a great deal of attention to themselves. It's a nice place to retreat, not only from the activity of the immediately surrounding project, but indeed from the activity of the street surrounding. This is a nice place to take a walk in the evening, and it's free. You walk right down the street, turn a corner, suddenly you're in sycamore groves like many that have vanished from Southern California since the days of even my youth. This is actually a little too close. People start looking like they've been sprayed with shaving cream. Yes, Mickey Mouse is coming. Mickey Mouse is coming to the animation department. The animation department is the root and heart of the Disney Corporation. It was Walt Disney's animated characters that allowed him to build an entertainment empire, if you will, founded on values that people like and not founded on sort of abusive, exploitative things. So what we want to do is move that heart here so that it really does represent a living part of our corporation participating in the community. And that's the animation department, which I believe we're talking about here, and offices associated being worked into this campus. Again, the grounds of the campus are open public ground with orange trees and rose gardens that you can walk in and feed birds and all this great stuff that goes on. The animation department will be open and you'll be able to go and tour it. Again, going back to this idea of the roots of our corporation, and these roots being very close to the Los Angeles community and with the studio, very close to Burbank, we want to put in an archival museum. We happen to have archives full of Walt Disney's stuff, personal records of the very, very early days of his creative life, very, well, frankly, strange Disney memorabilia that probably no one's ever seen, Mickeys that, you know, you don't see on the market. Great books, animated pieces of film. These things are all locked away in an archive where very few people get to see them. We want to bring them out, lay them out before the public in a wonderful environment to come in and to look around. And again, this would be displayed very openly to the community. Obviously, something of this size demands several large entertainment facilities, and one of these will be a multiple theater, like the AMC theater that's already been put in. Most people feel that the community could sustain more theaters, and of course theaters bring nightlife in, and nightlife keeps the streets alive, and keeping the streets alive prevents them from being empty, which translates into dangerous. So this is a great idea. We, of course, would once a year probably host a Disney Film Festival and turn it into a great gala event, but most of the time this would be, we hope, the finest theater recently built in California, at least, if not the United States, and obviously we could probably do that because it's sort of what we do, or we try to. As well as that, we've got great dining possibilities here, again following this movie theme, pulling from the mythology of MGM and the mythology of Disney, and possibly relating to other studios as well, depending on their willingness to become involved in this sort of collective idea. This is the star quality diner, and it's filled with memorabilia, actual things that you can get up close to and look at that relate to the entire, almost getting now on towards 100 years of film history. Upstairs from this is a place where kids can crawl around and have fun, the catwalks, and up there they serve funny drinks, and you can look down into the restaurant and watch people walking back and forth and get somewhat of the sensation of what it must be like to be up high on the catwalks above a soundstage. Speaking of Soundstage, another restaurant that relates to this is called the Soundstage Restaurant. The Soundstage Restaurant is meant to be a place to go with your family to sit in a wonderful environment, again drawn from the mythologies of the two studios involved in this project. And this is where Mickey Mouse lives. This is where the characters have their character breakfasts, where you can bring your family, you can have a birthday with Mickey Mouse and Goofy. It's kept in an environment that's very theatrical, very entertaining when nothing is happening, but when it is a party hosted by Mickey Mouse or one of his friends, it becomes a very, very lively place, a very fun place to bring your kids. And that sort of event takes on a very celebrative atmosphere. We want to control that kind of event because, again, Mickey Mouse is something that you can't really integrate too terribly into what we hope to become the natural street energy of a real town. Now, another aspect of the movies that we're hoping to market and to bring a great deal of prominence to the project is our great moments at the movies, MGM, Disney. It is a ride. It's a ride about the romance of the great moments of classic films throughout history up until the present time. It actually transforms from a passive ride into an active adventure, and people are probably looking at this thinking, would you please explain this rendering? A man is being shot. Yes, I'm going to do that now because I don't want to leave you thinking that we're going to shoot guests. This man is a ride operator. It's okay. The whole idea here is that you take off on what appears to be sort of a normal Disney adventure where we're in charge and we're going to show you things and you don't get to do anything and nothing's going to happen to you. It's all going to happen out there. Your ride operator, however, is ambushed, and I think in the present version he's not shot, but he's ambushed and taken away, and a criminal takes your car and takes you on this rollicking adventure through all these movie sets, ultimately to be rescued and returned back to normal life. It's a great fun way to see some great sets from classic movies of the past. 3-camera video is a format that we use, again, to learn about video, which is going to be one of our media production facilities here enclosed in this area, and at the same time to provide a great deal of entertainment for people who are in the process of learning about that. In this case, guests are able to interact with the cameras and actually be involved in the production of fun films, videos actually, that are edited and made available for them to sort of keep. Also, another very, very big aspect of film today is special effects. We want to put the simulators in, somehow relating to the development of special effects. Now, again, I have to admit that the concept at this point is only gelling. The point of it being that the simulator ride would somehow relate to learning about the essence of special effects and what goes into making the final product and how you experience it. The simulators, for those of you who haven't been down to Disneyland and experienced them, are the most incredible thing in the world. They're just wonderful. The simulator is a very dry word for what this does. A simulator makes you believe that things are happening that can't possibly be happening, that you're flying in the air, falling, tumbling downstairs, traveling down a nice soft river. I mean, it can do nice things too. You don't have to jump all around. But the point of it being, it's a wonderful entertainment. It makes you feel as if you've been somewhere, and in fact, you've just been inside this moving box. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us to use special effects and film technology and film mythology to give an experience to this small contained area that expands it out into essentially the entire world. For teens, we're trying to develop our Videopolis Dance Club into a larger venue that offers food and dancing with a lot of videos in a very, very highly designed, very nice environment, clean, with a kind of almost a science fiction twist to it. The Hollywood Fantasy Hotel is a wonderful place to visit. It's got its feet down in this canyon with the calm river that I hope to have trout in, and the trees and the shade and the little bungalows and the birds that are going to come eat, and squirrels and what else? Gopher snakes. All those things are going to live down there. And then as you rise up, eventually, it's the crown of the entire project with this great dome up above it. Each floor is themed to a different classic movie film genre. Now, the one that I like the best is the film noir floor, where you walk down your floor, everything is like done in these silvery halftones, and there's Venetian blind streaks airbrushed onto the wall. The light kind of comes up from below, so you feel like you're walking around constantly in a Dimitric movie. This could be real fun. I mean, you wouldn't want to spend 2 months there, but it's a great place to go for a while to stay. It's a wonderful experience that takes you again into a whole imaginative world. Imaginative worlds is what our business is. I'm going to go back just for a second because there's something else that I really like that I have to tell you about. Up there on top is this big dome. In the dome is the, right now we're calling it the Celestial Diner. Basically, it's the most romantic place to have a meal in the entire West. From the top of this dome, you have a view of the entire valley, the mountains all the way around it, on past Eagle Rock towards Pasadena, and out, towards Los Angeles. Of course, up above you, most days out of the year, is an ugly sky full of smog that usually looks kind of lavender, and you can't see any stars. Okay, fine. That's fine with us, because we're going to put a planetarium ceiling up there. And a planetarium ball is going to project a great sky up there every day of the year, while a chamber orchestra sits around the planetarium machine and plays great music. It's a wonderful place to go, and it's always very romantic, and you always have the view you want, but it never rains on you. It's sort of capturing a heavenly kind of quality to have your 10th anniversary dinner in. Now, it looks down the other direction across. The final thing is sort of the craziest end of this, a place where we've gotten now far away from the street and up towards where the entertainment is, where things are allowed to get a little looser, and that's the pier. Now, remember, we're trying to imagine that this is indeed a pier. In fact, it was once the tank to the movie set where they would put their little models and film all those things, and in fact, we're building it because there's not really anything out there. But we're imagining that this was once the special effects tank, and there's the painted sky right there that you film against. Oops, excuse me. And as you can see, the edge of this water blocks out the freeway, blocks out the industrial community. That's interesting. I'll try this again. As you look out at the setting sun, the lights of the city are coming up and reflecting in the water. The sun is setting, and to the person walking along this promenade, it appears that the sun is setting into the ocean, possibly with islands off in the distance, which in fact is a gura. Again, I gotta tell you, I think this is great. I love this idea. If you guys don't do it, I'm doing it in my backyard because I just love it. Okay. Obviously, when you talk about a pier and you talk about that kind of stuff, you've got to have the things that made those things famous. We want to have a fun house, but again, a fun house as only we can do it. A fun house that is really fun and full of surprises, and not like the one that you might encounter were you to go to one of these piers that really does exist right now, usually are infested with roaches or something terrible. Also bumper cars, but once again, as you can immediately see, not bumper cars as anybody else has done, but bumper cars with a difference. In this case, possibly bumper cars that are free to drive all over little bumper car freeways and bump into each other, do all the things you'd love to do on the freeway coming home. Only you get to do it in this little car, ram people, bump into light posts, and meanwhile you can go to like a tiny, tiny Nailers and get little tiny hamburgers. And it's all sort of done like the 50s. Okay, now you probably think, okay, now we see the guy is nuts because this stuff is all crazy. But I promise, it's all in where it belongs, and it really is fun. Yes, he's really crazy. Look, there's a car up in the air. This is another great idea. This is one that we're executing for our Pleasure Island project. In this case, we've taken 3 very popular things to do: roller skate, dance, and eat. Well, one of those is very popular, I know, for sure. In this case, we're doing them all in the same place. You've got a roller skating rink around a dance floor and a DJ who flies around in a 57 Chevy that's suspended in the air, playing music and coming down to the floor, talking to people and flying all over. We can't tell you how that's done because that's a secret, and you might do it in your own home and it might be dangerous. The restaurant associated with this, since it's all sort of 50s, beachy, watery, is what we call the Deep End. Now, this isn't what it appears to be. You're probably looking at this and saying, somebody has placed tables at the bottom of a pool. This is untrue. This is not, it is indeed what it appears to be, but not the fact. The fact is that there's no water in here. There is no water. What that is an illusion created by us Imagineers who are forced to do this every day for a living. And these are the robot figures that we use, the AA figures, frozen forever in this attitude of diving and swimming through this pool, moving very slowly above your head, while the light that lights this place comes from the beach balls that are sitting on the surface of the water. So you retreat from this high energy, you know, what was happening right here. Teenagers screaming at each other, jumping up and down, roller skating, and some guy floating around in a car yelling and playing loud music. You go, which actually can be fun, you go to this very quiet, dream-like environment and you have your little snacky tuna sandwiches. It's really a wonderful place to go. Also on the pier is Madisons Dive, which is a crab house that's gone full scale, and you go walk down so that you're underwater and you look out through the windows, and even though the water's only, like we say, about 18 inches deep, which you mustn't ever tell any of your friends, when you look out the windows, it looks like it's deep and it's an ocean and there's fish swimming around out there, which are in fact aquariums. Now again, people are looking thinking, wait, something's terribly wrong here. Yes, something is. This is our fish out of water restaurant. Fish out of water is sort of one of the fundamental principles of developing a good story. In this case, the story is that something's wrong and beef lives in the sea. This is the best steakhouse in Los Angeles, but it's in a boat that is stuck out off the edge of the cliff, right there. Can you all see this little boat dangling like a little peanut at the edge of this cliff? You take a little rowboat, you make your reservations here, and you go out, and inside that boat is all done like a seafood restaurant with those balls that float over from Japan and the big nets and fishing poles, except that something has gone wrong because on the wall is mounted a giant stuffed steer. You know, it says Sea of Cortez, 1942, 2,000 pounds. On the wall are big paintings of sea-going vessels plowing through the ocean with cattle leaping across the bow like dolphins. On the wall are big photographs of Jacques Cousteau swimming underwater with steers going by. And here's a picture of Papa Hemingway, and he's just caught a bison because obviously what else would he catch, you know? Best steak in town, great service, great wine list, but the waiters are all dressed like Maine lobster fishermen, and there's lobster traps hanging from the ceiling that are like 12 feet long because, you know, you're catching cattle with them. Now, I must get on my knees before you and beg you, I want this to be an existing thing. I think this idea is great. This is my favorite thing in the whole wide world. And out beyond it, you can see out there, you know, are people probably living in Calabasas who are going to drive out here just to go to this. There's the boat hanging over the edge and lucky guests being rowed out to it. Now, think about this for a second, not as a boat. What it actually is a balcony suspended out here where you can have your cocktails and have this incredible view of the valley as the sun goes down. This is actually a great place. It sounds crazy, but it works. The other crazy thing we have that sounds crazy but is actually safer than it usually is the Ferris wheel. Now, you'll notice that the Ferris wheel is stuck like a quarter into the side of the ocean, and the ocean, as we recall, is some 6 floors up in the air. Therefore, when you go down in here and you get on the Ferris wheel, and the Ferris wheel is coming this way, you come forward and suddenly you're outside the building and you're quite a few feet above the ground. This is a big thrill, something that most Ferris wheels can't do till they get up high. This Ferris wheel is still at the bottom. You swing out, again you have this gorgeous view of the valley as you go higher and higher and higher up into the sky till you're way up here, and you little crudely drawn people with their arms in the air. And then down you come again and you sink into the water and go around several times before you decide, well, that's quite enough, I had a wonderful time. As you're doing this, this wonderful sun is setting in the west, the lights are coming up, seagulls are sure to colonize this place and make it their home. It really feels like a wonderful fantasy environment down by the sea. Keep in mind that the whole mythology, the whole use behind this is that it will be given life, it will be given industry by being made real use of as an actual shooting location. That's not very many times during the year, I promise you. But those places begin to take on an identity so that when you tell people where you live, they go, oh yeah, I know that place. That was in that movie, you know, Guns Across the Nile or whatever. But ultimately, it's meant to be a part of the community It's meant to be accessible to pedestrian traffic. It's meant to be the kind of place where you can take a stroll with your kids and your parents, and you can walk up here and sit at the edge of the ocean and watch the sunset. And that is entertainment. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. So that is somewhat theatrically presented our project. Basically, we're going to plan to use all of those streets to shoot movies. Basically, it's going to be a movie experience tied in with retail and dining. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Eisner.